And now we continue with accessibility as business case. What is needed for a good product so it can be marketed best? Experiences our next keynote speaker, Sonia Groot. She is the founder of GrootTravels, an online travel platform that assists hospitality businesses to become more accessible and DiscoverAble.eu, the tailor-made offer for people with impairments from against a personal background. Anybody who wants to listen in German, switch to channel 1 for German. And give her, please, a warm welcome.
So, I would like to start with a very simple business question. If I told you that there was a market where they travel in groups, where they are highly loyal, where they have returning behavior, where they recommend actively within their own communities, and is growing. A market that is worth over 150 billion euro per year. Would you act on it, or would you just ignore it? Because that market is the accessible travel market. And somehow, the travel industry has never fully tapped into that value of that market. So why is that? And why the accessible travel market? To explain that, I want to share a little bit about myself. Why is it important to me, but also why it should be important to you as business leaders. So this is my family, my dad and my mom. My mom uses an electrical wheelchair. This photo was taken in Spain. My mom has MS, which meant that she went from walking to using a cane to using a walker, and now permanently in an electrical wheelchair. And over the years, we have experienced something that many of you and maybe your customers has also experienced, and that is that the travel industry is not really accessible. From stairs in front of the entrance, and the only other way, thank you, is to enter through the restaurant, or you book that accessible room, but you find a bath in the bathroom, so you cannot even use the bathroom for a week, or you want to eat breakfast, and then you find out that there are stairs, so you cannot even go to the designated area. These are issues that millions of people with accessibility needs experience every year globally. So what is the global market? So globally, there are at least 1.3 billion people with some form of disability. And then in Europe, it's 135 million people with some form of disability. And the market is growing. If we look at all these experiences these people have over the years, we can narrow it down to these 3 core issues, which is first, the missing accessibility information. It's either incorrect, or non-existent, or it is very hard to find. Second, it's service, employees and travel providers not providing the right service because they don't understand the accessibility needs, or they generalize the accessibility needs of people, so they don't truly listen to what a person needs. And at the same time, it's the lack of accessible offers. So we all know the problem. You want to go to a hotel, but they only have 2 or 3 accessible rooms. Or that you want to go to a certain country, but you cannot rent the mobility aids that you need, but you were able to do it in another country. And of course, the accessible travel or accessible transfer conundrum, where only 3 people are allowed in the van instead of 4, and most families are usually made out of 4. And if accessibility fails, the overall experience becomes so exhausting, it becomes a logistical nightmare, independence gets taken away, and if you are traveling with a companion, which usually happens, they have to step into a care role, or you could even say being forced into a care role, and it affects the quality of life because people, they choose to stay close to home, go to the same destinations, or not travel at all. And these issues are exactly why the travel industry has never fully tapped into the potential of the accessible travel market. And also the issues that need to be solved if they really want to tap into the business opportunities. So what are the potential in this industry? So first, like I mentioned before, the total industry is about 150 billion. But if we add the multiplier effect, so all the companions that travel along to a free per person on average, it could actually be 395 billion euro per year. And if we narrow it down to Europe, 70% have both financial and physical means to travel, contributing to 783 million trips per year. And like I said before, the market is growing because right now, 1 in 5 is aged over 65 in Europe. And within this group, 50% experiences some form of disability. So what happens if you apply accessibility the right way? You will see that this customer's travel behavior is that of loyalty. They come back to places they know are good, and they're not afraid to recommend them within their own communities. For the last one, I want to share a really fun experience and how powerful positive experiences are. I went with my parents to India last year. It was a beautiful vacation of 3 different locations within India, and the second one was a bungalow, an adapted bungalow, but it didn't really meet the accessibility needs of my mom because the toilet was too low. So she could not independently move from the toilet to the wheelchair. And usually in this case, my dad jumps in and he finds a way. Either my mom is then able to do the transfer herself, or he has to actually physically lift her. Well, he is 67 now. Things change when you get older, even though he doesn't like to admit it, but it happens. And in this case, we thought, okay, well, why don't we just go to the management? Because for us, it's not working, but it could work for the second customer. And we would like to help at least improve these experiences for others. So we went to the management, we explained everything. We told them the type of commode chairs they could buy, the seat extender, and if they were ever planning on to renovate, what type of renovations they could possibly do. Well, usually when we do these things, we usually hear, oh yeah, it's something for in the future, or you'll manage, it's fine. But this time, we were very surprised, because the next day, we got a knock on our door, and they actually bought a shower chair that we recommended overnight. And my mom and I were so surprised about it, because now she could actually independently use the toilet. It was such a special experience that I wanted to share it on LinkedIn, which I did, and it got almost 50,000 impressions and 61 reposts. And this was because other people were amplifying this message from sharing their own experiences, but also praising the hotel, and people asking, where is this hotel? We would like to stay there. And that is the power of positive experiences. It's much stronger and much better for the company than bad reviews. But what does it mean if you apply accessibility the right way? Well, John has already mentioned it, and I think we're all very much aligned in the industry what needs to be done. And that is, we need to go from very badly documented accessibility to very well documented. And that means that we need to visit the hotels, we need pictures and videos and measurements. And this needs to be communicated to the professional directly to the traveler on social media, on the websites and booking channels. It needs to be super easy to find. And it needs to be updated yearly. Because if you update it, then you don't have the issue that the room all of a sudden looks very different because there was renovations and now the information is not correct anymore. At the same time, it's also great for maintenance because it's a really unique experience when you go into a hotel and all of a sudden the grab bar falls off the wall. So this is a nice little reminder for the hotel to, keep up the maintenance. Second, the entire team needs to be trained, from front staff to customer service, but also the directors. The directors need to know what they are selling, but also need to understand what the problem really is to be able to really solve it. And it needs to be documented within their own processes, so it's also easy to find for everyone if there are questions. Because the questions that we ask are very important. We need to know the height of the toilet, and we don't need to know that just because someone else was in a wheelchair and was able to use the toilet, that means for us. So if someone asks the height of the toilet, give the measurements. And third, if we want to create more accessible offers and improve on the accessible offers that are there, we have to co-create with professionals and the potential end user. This is another example in India. We were talking to the sales director because we noticed that the ramp was placed in at a very unique place, where my mom couldn't really use it, so it became a bit dangerous. So we asked, could you move it to the middle of the entrance? It's still not great because it's not big. There are no side edges to make sure she doesn't fall off, but it is something. So we talked during the breakfast with him and we said, okay, well, if you really want to improve, you should maybe make the ramp bigger to cover the entire threshold, add some texture and some handrails. Well, a month later, he did actually create a bigger ramp. Is it perfect? No, because there of course are things that could be better, but he did actually do it. And the thing about accessibility is that non-accessible offers can only be offered to a few. whereas accessibility is for everyone, so everyone's experience improves. So, to summarize, if you tap into the accessible travel market and you do it the right way, you improve the sense of belonging of your travelers and at the same time higher your chances of bookings and returning customers, which they then will also promote within their own communities again. For business partners, it becomes so much easier to book these type of travels. It means less double-checking, triple-checking if it was correct what the front office said. It takes less time to just book the entire thing, which is great because the margins are not that high. And it makes the communication and the collaboration between hotels and other accommodations just so much easier. Overall, like I said before, it improves the experience for everyone because accessibility is for everyone. At the same time, you access a new and growing market, which, if we are being honest, is being underestimated by the large group of the industry. So you will differentiate yourself in this way. And you will have a better brand positioning because you are now seen as a socially aware company and people care about these things. But we do need to remember something very fundamental, and that is accessibility is a human right. And it's not about if we need accessibility, it's about when. Because some people might need it early in life, but others need it later in life, because we're all getting older. So, as industry, I believe we need to do the smart thing and the right thing, and that is invest in accessibility in our sustainability strategies, in our operational strategies, and that way we can create an industry that's actually accessible for all, where we can all benefit from. Thank you.
Vielen Dank, Sonia Groot. Groot, sage ich das richtig? Groot. Ja, genau, nicht so richtig. Ihre Fragen an Sonia.
Your questions to Sonia or comments on what she has been saying online, anybody? It was apparently so convincing that you convinced everybody. Sonia, let me ask you, with a look at Germany or Berlin, you are our neighboring country. What's your perception of Germany? What's your take on it?
Germany, I mean, concerning barrier-free travel possibilities, is it a good market already, or where can we improve more?
Well, I mean, there's still a lot to improve, but I do think with this day and all the things that are happening in Germany for barrier-free travel, I think it's a great step. If you want to compare it to a country like Spain, I would say is the front runner, and Germany is, well, getting there.
Okay, good. Vielen Dank, Sonia Groot.
Groot.
Thank you very much.